What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Gsluke here from the sketchy hotel. Just was at the Pro-Am here for the Valspar Championship. Gonna bring you everything you need to know last second to get ready for this week. So welcome on in. This is a one-time hotel. I had to do something last second so I could go up there for the Pro-Am. Didn't think I'd have the time. Didn't think I'd feel well enough this morning to come up here, but surprised myself. So was able to do a little bit of a scouting report, get out there, see that lush rough that everyone was talking about. And without fail, we do get the black screen of death early on. I was going to say, guys, we've got that sketchy setup on the road. So if you see the screen flashing black, that's exactly what that is. But hey, we'll make hay with it. What's going on, Mark? See you down there. Says the $1 million question about the PM AM fade. Yeah, we'll talk about that. The weather could be a huge factor this week. Jeff down there, Nick down there, Robert. You guys are smashing it down there in chat. I absolutely love it. We got Nick who's saying, how am I doing? Doing pretty well. What's going on, Robert? Hopefully we don't have a black light on the sheets, Robert says. It's not that sketchy of a hotel. It's not like a 4 or 5 star hotel like I like. Like it's very old fashioned. It's an old hotel. It's very clean, I have to say, but very bland. Like I would show you, I would turn the camera around and whatnot, but if I do so, I guarantee I'm going to unplug my mic or my camera. So let's try to avoid that. Let's get this thing started. So I have no idea how long this computer is going to operate without failing, so on and so forth. So let's hop right into this. So in terms of the golf course, guys, we already did a whole course breakdown, right? I'm not going to regurgitate that here. What I'm going to focus on is what I saw out there today. So I can confirm that rough is just as lush as people were talking about. It honestly looks close to 4 inches. It was definitely gnarlier than what we saw at the API. So will be a huge factor. And in terms of the fairway widths, they look the same to me. So I know there was a report out there saying that they would be 6 yards narrower. I'm not sure if that's the case. A few other things to note is that on my way over, it did rain in Central Florida, so I'm unsure whether it actually rained over here on the golf course because it was done by the time I got here. But I have to imagine, right, if it was raining about 50 miles to the east, I imagine a little bit of that rain dumped over there on the west coast of the state. So could be a little bit more receptive tomorrow than I think I was anticipating. But that rough, gnarly, and then the fairways, I can't really confirm it one way or another. They look the same to me, but if they're reporting that they're going to be 6 yards narrower, I'm sure they might be. It's pretty hard to gauge that when you're there in person anyways. In terms of the weather, I know we're going to get a million questions about it. It does look like there's going to be a slight advantage to be had, but maybe not as large an advantage as it was initially going to be. And the reason I say this is that the morning for Friday is now actually looking a little bit worse in the afternoon. And early in the week, all of the weather forecasts were calling for the winds to be like significantly higher there Friday afternoon, closer to like 20 miles an hour if sustained, with something closer to like 30, even 35 miles an hour of wind gusts. And that's not really happening, at least on the wind finder model. You go over here to the Willy Weather, you can see they have it relatively consistent there for Thursday, which is pretty much right in line with what Windfinder is calling for, right? The sustained winds are pretty flat there. But on Friday, you can see they do have it kicking up a little bit more than Windfinder does. So there's likely to be some sort of weather edge to be had, but it's not going to be like the half stroke advantage that I thought it was going to be even just this morning, right? Looking at some of these models. If you look at Windy, if you look at Weather Underground, a lot of them have changed their stance. They were calling for more of an edge again, just even this morning than they were at this hour. So I was mostly looking at PM AM guys this morning. I've slightly backtracked that. I'm a lot more likely to take guys, particularly towards the top of the board that are in the AM PM wave, because I really think it's looking like a half a stroke advantage at this point. So if you want to play the weather game, I would say, right, if anything, you stack the PM AM wave, but I'm personally not doing anything crazy with it, just based on, how this forecast has changed over the last 3-4 hours. I don't know if it's as large an edge as I was hoping it would be, because I was going to go balls deep on it. I, of course, was taking JT. A lot of my core plays were going to be AM PM wave, which I was going to scrap them, guys. Here for this live stream, I was fully prepared to say I backtrack everything I said this week. Only go out there and play PM AM, guys. but it looks like the weather has slightly cooperated with me. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on this tonight, right? Try to make sure that these models don't change all that much. But at least as of right now, it doesn't look like there's anything crazy out there when it comes to the weather. Let's go ahead, hop over to the projection side. Also, we'll catch up on chat. We're going to keep this quick, guys. I'm very sick. I've taken like 3 times the allotted allergy medicine today to try and get over it. It's brutal out here because I'm sick and I have allergies right now. So it's it's about as bad as it gets when it comes to the nasal passages and whatnot. What's going on there? Let's catch up on these questions. So Mark, to get to your question there, yeah, I would say I'm favoring the PM AM wave, but definitely have guys in both waves. And I appreciate you, Mark. You're going to get me with our restaurants this week. Appreciate it. I need a restaurant for tonight, Mark. Afterwards, we're going to go and get something to eat here in a little bit. Is 18 players too small of a player pool? I wouldn't say so. I'd say 18 guys, right? If you're playing like 20 lineups, makes perfect sense. If you're playing 150 lineups, yeah, I'd say that's too small. All depends on how many lineups you're entering. How are we doing? You may as well join the tour. You're saying I might as well join the tour? Heck no. I know you're saying that, right? Because I had that long drive a few weeks ago. Hey, if I can hit one drive that long and it hits, 50 yards of rollout there, I'll take it. Don't put the black light. Yep. James says, hey, Luke, what is the strategy with so many high-end players going off in the morning? Yeah, I just showed you guys the weather. I think that people this morning when they were looking at weather, like Mayo and Tambo, obviously on their show, I'm assuming they did something. Rick does his live stream. I'm sure he was talking about the weather. It's changing, and it's changing live in front of our eyes. And, we just went through that. That at least what we're looking at right now is like a half a stroke advantage. And if everyone's going to overreact and fade those guys, then all power to it. It's not a big enough advantage to play, especially to go out there and stack all 6 players. Take Stewart's spot. I'm all for it. What's up, brother Luke? Appreciate all the info you give us. Well, I appreciate you, Daniel. Thank you for stopping by. Welcome on in. Where are the hookers at? There might be some at this hotel, honestly. It's that's what I meant by sketchy. Is it's decent hotel, but it gives me some weird vibes. Jeff says, what do you think the best strategy to playing a single entry contest is? To have a small player pool or to completely differentiate each lineup? So yeah, so you're talking about like your pool of single entries, which I do it the same kind of way. So I don't use the same single entry in all my single entries. I used to do that about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I have ever since changed my strategy. Throat's about to get me, boys. So let me get a sip of this coffee just to try and prevent that. Trying to soothe the throat a little bit with the warm coffee there. It's a lukewarm, so it should do a pretty good job at that. To get back to your question there, Jeff, I definitely keep a small player pool. If I have like 3-4 single entries, I'd say like that's my average every single week. Maybe like a 8 to 10 player pool. So yeah, it's tight. I'd say closer to like the 10 side though, right? There's probably like 4 players and I'm mixing in. Usually I do take a core of like 3 or 4 guys and try and build around that. So yeah, dude, I try and keep it as tight as possible. What's going on, Breakfast Ball? Had a blast kicking it with you with the players. Absolutely, man. It was a pleasure meeting you. Let's do that waste management trip. And hey, I'm gonna start plugging it right now, guys. We're doing a waste management trip next year for that event. So if you're in the Patreon, we're gonna talk about it quite a bit in the Discord. But hey, even if you're just a viewer out there, the invitation is going to be opened up to you too. So we'll talk about it when we get closer. But that's something that me and Breakfast Ball we're talking about. Definitely plan on doing. Daniel says, what is Fitzpatrick's ownership? Yeah, so over here for the stream today, guys, we're going to have ownership up. So you can see ownership over here on the right side. Hopefully it's large enough that you guys can see it. That's what's going to be in front of the paywall today. So obviously, a lot of projections, my player pool are going to be still behind the paywall on Patreon. But obviously, we'll talk about a lot of the guys I'm getting to. But in terms of Fitzy's ownership, it's a 17.3%. So that's the lowest of any of one of those elite tier players. And given his track record, the fact that he's in the PMAM wave, I tend to like that. So yeah, there it is. Restaurants this week: Uzana Blue, Marina. Okay, has some seafood. The players will be there. You're saying okay, and you're saying Italian plum tomato. You're saying it's a casual spot, so that might be the food tonight. I might go with the Italian tonight, Mark. I'll have to bookmark that. Let me go ahead and actually favorite that so I can get back to it later. Flag says, you like Eric Cole this week? Do you know that he's coached by you almost got me there, Flag. You like Eric Cole though? Okay, makes sense. Nick says, what a surprise. The weather is being shady. Yeah, of course. Yeah, changing on us. That's the thing I have to say about the weather when it comes to golf. Like last week, it like flipped itself on its head, right? Like we thought it was going to go one way and it went the other. That's why I didn't play the weather all that much last week. And of course, it worked out for me. Even when we see like distinct edges, sometimes they get flipped on their head. So that's why, like, when we see like an edge and it's getting murked up or muddied up like it is right now, I have a hard time even playing it. So I wish there was an edge to be had, but yeah, the weather gods, the forecasters are being shady out there, as Nick says. Daniel says, do you still like the 2.5 bogeys? I do. I still have them in, Daniel, so I can't, take them out or anything like that. But yeah, I still like them. Anointed says, hope you get better. Appreciate that. Well, we're gonna tough it out, right? I think it's just a big cold. Might be COVID. Who knows? I've gone COVID like 4 times. So it's just completely immune to it at this point. What about the other weather sites? Don't get the miles an hour in one direction. Let me take a look. 1 second. First cough. I knew it was gonna happen eventually. Hopefully, it didn't take your eardrums out there, boys. Sorry, shouldn't be doing this on stream, but I know which one you're talking about. The Windy app, right? That's the one that has the models on it. I can't get it. I don't think I have a wind station in Palm Harbor. So I don't know. I'll look at it after the stream, Anointed. If you're on the Discord, I'll go ahead and find the pin for you and look at it. I was looking at it earlier this morning, and it was calling for what all the other sites were calling for. And now that they've changed, I have to imagine that changed because that's the model that they use for all of those. So yeah, I'll take a look at it later on. That Windy app definitely has some of the better wind models. NSN says, you think JT can really turn things around this week? I do too. He's got to start playing consistently. Yeah, I think he's playing a little bit too aggressive. So, just trusting his game more, maybe going out there, taking more conservative targets would do him nicely. But I agree. I think it's a good course fit. Lukewarm. Yeah, you see what I did there. Daniel says, because there are 5 par 3s, are you overweight on the par 3 scoring this week? A little bit. I'm looking at mostly the longer par 3. So I think if you're going to look at anything, look at the guys that are better at like the 175-yard plus par 3s because pretty much all of them are there. Pin locations dropped. Okay, a couple of tucked spots. That's good to know. You'll be at match play next week. That's sure. That's going to be fun, dude. That's going to be a lot of fun. You're saying in for the waste management one. Yeah, it's on my bucket list. When Breakfast Ball brought it up, who, by the way, it was just a fantastic idea. I was like, yeah, I'm 100% down because I always ask my buddies from down here in South Florida go to like golf tournaments, and like they're good to go to the players and whatnot. Like my best friend was with me for the weekend there, but to go to the waste management, like they're gonna flake out. So I got to ask some real golf hardos like you guys. So if you're in that, it'll be sweet. The match play, I'm jealous, man. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Hopefully they continue that into the future because that was on my bucket list. And now they're saying they're going to stop it. So that's just annoying. Zachary says, planning on heading to waste management next year. Sounds good, dude. Meet us there, Zach. Anointed says, do you have ownership percentage? So do I set like a cap on that is what you're saying. So yeah, I do that from time to time. It's actually one of the things that I can control in my optimizer, Matt. So it changes week to week. I have to say it really depends on the chalk I'm taking up top this week because I really want to have lineups that have JT and Spieth together. We're going to get into the player poll here in a second. We've done 5 minutes of rambling, so we'll get into it here shortly. But I have to make it a little bit higher this time around or else it's going to cut out a lot of those lineups for me. So I'd say this week, maybe it's like 90, 100% this week, which is a little bit higher than what I'm usually comfortable with. But yeah, I do that from time to time. Not every week though. Not every week I need to. Plum Tomato totally rocks. It's next to a gas station. That's all right. You don't have to worry about what's next to it. I'll definitely check it out for you, man. Nick says you'd rather use weather in showdown than week long. You're right. Yeah. In like a single day sample, especially if you like wake up before the round starts and check it, like it's great to use it for that. Do you like Ben Gordon or Ben Griffin? Ben Griffin, yeah, do like Ben Griffin. I'm assuming you're just trolling with the Ben Gordon thing. Luke, West Coast trip. Yeah, I'm gonna be at the U.S. Open this year, so that'll be part of my West Coast trip this year. And I'm actually gonna go to LA for an entire week. So I'm gonna visit, enjoy the city a little bit with a couple buddies, and then get to the U.S. Open. That's gonna be a blast. I just smile thinking about that. Brian Harmon, whew, he's in the good wave, right? He's got that going for him. The one thing that he's doing well of late is his off the tee play, which I think is going to be important this week. But yeah, dude, he's been atrocious. So that's pretty much all I can do to sell you on him there. But I am playing him. Thoughts on Batia? I think he's a little overpriced, but talented kid. He'll probably still get ownership because people really like him. Your fat ass isn't running at 5 a.m. Yeah, we're not doing that. You say you'll have the suite on 16 if at all possible. The suite on 16 is going to be really pricey. So maybe if we all chipped in, we can go out there and get one. Maybe we can do one of the suites on like one of the other holes. That's probably more in our price range, but we'll have to see, Nick. Hey, I know you're not afraid to spend. You know I'm not. So we'll figure something out. Because I agree with you. I'm also not waking up at 5. Jeff says Ohio's got sports books on January 1st. Lucky you. Florida's got to get that together here soon. You're up 3K then since to me. So nice, man. Love to see that. You say still a little bit sloppy on the DFS side. Yeah, that's going to be a little bit more volatile. So, outright bets, a little bit more consistent than DFS, where it's a little bit more of a lottery ticket. So you're saying maybe you'll stick to outrights. I think it's a little bit more down to just like perspective. Like in DFS, you got to know that it's a little bit more volatile, a little bit more of like a lottery ticket kind of system. So your results are going to reflect that. So yeah, I mean, if that's not your thing, then yeah, definitely stick to outrights, right? If that's like your moneymaker, you're having fun with it. But yeah, I like DFS. I like that lottery ticket aspect of it. So especially when you win, when you think it's something else over there. Thoughts on Champ? I thought you knew my thoughts on him, Nick. He's one of my value plays this week. I talked him up in a video, but I love him, Nick. I think that he's got that upside to win this event, particularly because I'm looking at off the tee play a lot more than anything else. He's the value pick this week that I put in that video that could get me in a lot of trouble, but I really like it. Enough blabbing through chat. We'll get to questions here in a little bit, but let's talk some DFS. So going through the top end of the board, really, I was looking at some of these PM guys earlier. Like I was starting to jam in like a Fitz, a Fleetwood, and a Rose. But I don't know if you need to do that anymore. And based on some of the comments I'm getting on my fades video, it looks like a lot of people are just like not playing JT and Spieth this week. A lot of guys are even saying that they're just going to fade Sam Burns because he's in the AM wave. And now that the weather's kind of coming around, like maybe you just play those 3 because I honestly think they're going to have the same ownership as a Fitz, Fleetwood, and Rose. Now, I also like Fitz, so it's worth noting that I still think he's a fantastic play, and I want to get there this week. So my personal strategy, I guess I'll just go ahead and say it, is I'm playing the top 4. I'm playing Spieth, JT, Burns, and Fitz. And if you're fading a lot of these guys in the PM, if you're fading like a McCarthy, a Hadman, who's like 23% owned, if you're not taking a bunch of these 8K options, you can easily play all those 10K players. Like pricing is so soft. You just play a bunch of those 7K guys. You mix in a 6K guy if you need to and make them line up. So that's when I was talking about that exposure cap before. I don't really want to set one this week when most of my lineups are going to have a 40% block up top, right? They're like almost all 20% owned between those 4 players. So setting like a, let's say 85% cap, right, means I have 45% to work between 4 spots, which, is probably enough. But, when I'm playing 150 lineups, there's going to be a few combinations that's going to keep me away from. So that's what I'm thinking up there. I honestly don't think that it's that mind-blowing that I want to play the top 4 players, especially considering that I think that they're way, way better than these guys in the 9K range. Like, sure, Tommy Fleetwood, great DP World Tour player, right? Above average PGA Tour player. But Fitz is a borderline elite tier guy. Like he was top 5 in the world after he won the US Open. Fleetwood's like a 20 to 25th kind of player, right? Like there's a massive drop off. Sam Burns, right? In terms of official world golf ranking, isn't that elite tier guy, but he's your back-to-back champion, right? Like at this event, he might as well be like a John Rahm in this kind of field. So these top 4 guys, I think, are just in a tier of their own, and I'm treating them like that this week. That's just I'm trying not to overthink it, to be quite frank with you. I think that they're the best plays and that they're getting the same ownership as these guys in the 9K range, which seems a little bit ridiculous to me. So I'm making most of those pivots there. Down here in the 8 and 9K range, I think it's really weak. There are a few guys I think are worth getting to, but then a lot of guys that are overpriced, guys that I think are getting way too much attention as well. So this lower end of the 9K, this upper end of the 8K, outside of like maybe 1, 2 players, is a fade for me. Like, just I'm not getting there. I just don't see a reason to. And because I'm being so aggressive up top, right, taking at least 2 of those guys, pretty much every single lineup, it's not like I can even play it to begin with, right? It's not like I'm playing a lot of these guys when I'm taking so many of those top tier options. Towards the bottom end of the 8K, there's a few guys I like. Ben Griffin's an absolute stud. So I'm going right back there. I think he's honest to God, Ben Griffin's probably like a top 30 player in the world in terms of like actual talent level. And I don't think that's crazy to say based on like his pedigree, like based on just what I've seen, the eye test, and then some of the recent finishes. Honda Classic, right? A field that was like pretty sorry. Like that was his one meh kind of start during that stretch. Outside of that, the stronger the field, the better that he seems to play. So I really like some Ben Griffin, even with the ownership that he's getting there. Victor Perez, crazy that he's nearly 17% owned. Great player, but not worth 17% ownership. In the 7K range, ownership's kind of flat. Let's see. Joel Damon's like 10%. Eric Cole's like 9.4. Ryan Gervard, of all people, is like 11% owned. One second, guys. Probably see me struggling with the cough there. I was trying to hold it off. Got to get it out. But like outside of that, no one's mega chalk here. Like sometimes we have guys that are like 15 to 20% owned. I guess outside of a Victor Perez, there's not really that player. So pretty much take whoever the heck you want here in the 7K range. If you want to play Joel Damon, that's fine, right? He's the chalk here, but he's only like 10% owned. Brian Gerard, probably bad chalk, I have to say. He's had a few solid finishes, right? But he's like a completely unknown player. Monday qualifier that's starting to get starts because of how well he's played. It's highly unlikely for him to continue that kind of form going forward. So I don't really have that much to say here, guys. We're going to go over to like the lineup building side here in a second. I guess it's worth noting, still like Cameron Champ, right? He was what, $6,700. But outside of that, here in the 6K range, there's not a lot of guys I'm getting to. Like there's a few guys that I think are just better players than the price tag. I guess I'll point out Cole Hammer. He's definitely one of those players. He's also a PM AM wave golfer. But outside of that, there's not a lot of guys I'm getting to. Like I guess Carl Wan, you could play him. Like he's a good bull striker, but I don't know. These guys that are short off the tee down here, that are inconsistent ball strikers, that at a difficult Valspar championship with 4-inch rough, I don't think it's going to go very well for many of them. I think the cut rate this week for guys in the 7K range is going to be significantly higher than guys in the 6K range, which is always the case. But I think that this week it's going to be a little bit higher than most weeks just because of the ball striking emphasis, right? I think the better players are going to make the cut this week. So though I'm being so aggressive up top, I'm not really sure I'm going to need a bunch of 6K golfers because I'm also not trying to jam in these 9K options. Let's catch up on chat, see what's going on, and then we're going to hop into some lineup construction notes afterwards, which, of course, we'll be able to go through some players then too. But a few things I want to note there, especially because I'm being so aggressive up top. Is Tommy Fleetgod getting steamed up too much? Yeah, I think so. I have him, 19.3% owned. That's higher owned than Sam Burns, and Sam Burns is only $400 more expensive. I think he's getting steamed up too much, and I think Justin Rose is too. Like he's number 2 in form in this field, so obviously playing well, but he's 0.1% owned less than Sam Burns. Like to me, that's crazy. I think a lot of those like PM wave pivots that people were talking themselves into because of the quote unquote weather advantage. I think a lot of people are trying to get there now. So yes, I do think they're getting steamed up. Any love for T Dunks? I definitely do like him. Good ball striker. So I like that. Flagella, I'm just gonna laugh at your comment and skip over it. Tanner says, is the weather actually turning? I still see PM AM preferred. Yeah, we went over it on stream earlier, man. I'll show it to you. It looks like half a stroke advantage, maybe something like that. So that's why I am still looking at guys that are PM AM, but not nearly as much as before. So you can see here Thursday morning, right? Conditions look harder than the afternoon, right? That's the same. It's looked like that for like the last 2 days. The difference is that Friday morning now looks more difficult than the afternoon, right? And this was not the case as of a few hours ago. You can see the wind gusts Friday morning are higher than the afternoon. The sustained winds are relatively consistent throughout the day. And if you go over here on Willy Weather, it's kind of similar, right? You can see it's relatively flat there Thursday. In fact, ooh, we're getting the black screen of death, boys. My bad. Black screen of death right there. But I was saying that on Willy Weather, they're calling for it to be relatively consistent. And then on Friday, it's like a 2 mile an hour difference, right? So like Willy Weather is calling for like maybe a 0.5 shot edge at most. And then based on how Friday's looking over here on Windfinder now, I really don't know if that edge is there anymore, Tanner. So maybe you're looking at a different weather site than me. That's a little bit different there. But based on what I'm looking at, Tanner, I definitely see it turning. I don't see that advantage there anymore. Just based on my professional prognosis of the weather there, which, again, guys, the weather is just a shit show to begin with. So don't be surprised if it goes the complete opposite direction. Like, if the AM PM wave at the end of the week ends up being the advantageous wave, like I won't be surprised. I just want to say that there. Mark says, can't believe you said Cole Hammer. He was your secret find. Seems like we're on the same page on a lot this week, Mark. Daniel says, what is a good course comp for Innisbrook? API. He was like my number one comp course this week, and I definitely agree with that now. A lot of that was due to the black screen of death going on. There we go. Ooh. Oh, looks like we're good now. I would say, yeah, API, Bay Hill Club and Lodge, especially because of the ball striking and the rough. How would you describe Griffin and Justin Suh as plays? I like Griffin. I think Justin Suh is a little overrated because I'm a buyer long-term on Griffin. I'm not a buyer long-term on Justin Suh. Thumbs up on the stream, you jabronis. Couldn't have said it better myself. Love you there, bro. Nick says, is McNeely a good pivot? Yes, Nick. I talked him up as one of my sleeper plays this week. He was 6% owned when I was talking him up earlier. He's 9% owned now. So he is getting some attention, but yeah, I think so. He's got the rust going on with the injury. He's got some concerns there, but I think he can shake it off. Jack says, if there's one player who can play the wind, it's Gary Woodland. You're on him to cash in each way. Yeah, he's shown that in the past. I agree there. If I feel like anyone can be a weatherman, yeah, I agree. Because you don't have to be good at your job. That's for damn sure. All right, let's go over to Draftkings and let's talk through some lineup construction. If my screen would stop giving me this black screen of death, it'd be a little easier, but we'll make do either way. So heading over here to Draftkings. By the way, do not play Keegan Radley, right? He has withdrawn from the tournament. Now, he's not in our projections, right? So we have that accounted for, but in case anyone out there did not know yet, he is not in the field. When it comes to building my lineups, right, let's just start with the GPP lineup here. So we'll go over a cash lineup afterwards. But in GPPs, I'm going to have a lot of Spieth JT lineups, right, where I'm being extremely aggressive up there. That puts me down to 71.25 remaining, which I would say for a stronger field might be a little bit the black screen of death is going ham on us right now. Let's see. Oh, it looks like we're still live at least. Okay. So, all right. Didn't impact us that much, I guess. But like I was saying, because I'm being so aggressive up top, and I would say for other golf tournaments, I'd be a little bit more worried about it. But because of how weak the field is, like these bottom end of the 7K golfers are like the same as the top end of the 7K. Like I have no problems with it, especially if we can like jam in one guy like a Cameron Champ here and just raise that salary limit a little bit. So let's put Champ in there. Let's see. I like Mark Hubbard this week. I think that he's a little bit underrated, a little bit underpriced. We're at 73.5 remaining. You can go to, if you like Eric Cole, right? Get Eric Cole in this kind of lineup, and you're left with $7,400. Now, if you're a little bit less aggressive up top, maybe you can get to the top end of that 7K range. So let's say maybe our second man in is a Matty Fitz instead. Well, now you have $8,000 remaining, right? So you can go out there, take the Cage Lees of the world if you really wanted to, and round out a lineup in that kind of direction. So as you can see, taking those two 10K options does take me away from this 9K range, but I really don't like the range all that much. Like, they're gaining ownership. I don't think their win equity is anywhere close to as high as these top end guys. So I'm okay making those kind of pivots. Now, not every lineup is going to have two of those top end guys. Now, there's going to be a few of them, right, that just start with like maybe a Sam Burns, and then I'm able to take the Gary Woodlands that I talked up as a core play. Absolutely love Gary Woodland this week. I could take Ben Griffin in that kind of lineup. So it's not like every lineup is going to be those two 10K options, but I would say at least 60, 70% of my lineups are going to start in that kind of direction. Now, if you're thinking for cash, I do think you want to be a little bit more balanced, but I don't think you need to jam in these 9K guys. Like maybe you start with a Fitz, right? Because he's in the PM AM wave, right? You think maybe there's going to be some sort of like weather edge to be had out there. Ooh. Back-to-back black screen of death. Looks like we're going to get one more. Ooh, back-to-back-to-back. Hey, maybe that's a sign. We had back-to-back-to-back black screens of death. That'll be back-to-back wins for Sam Burns, I guess. Oh, it's borderline unstreamable right now, boys. All right. Hopefully we're done with that now. In cash, I like Fitz. As a like second man in, like maybe you take the Ben Griffins of the world. Oh boy. Half an hour in, the stream is shitting the bed. Not a surprise. Come on now. You were doing so well before. Let me see. Maybe this will work. It's like it's now showing me that I can mirror my display. So maybe that's why it's causing this. And I can get it to stop. If not, guys, the stream's probably going to be over. Because this is unbearable. I'm sure it's unbearable to watch. So I'm sure it's unbearable for both of us. Maybe it's stopping. All right. So we have Fitz in our cash lineup. We have Ben Griffin there. In this 7K range, like Joel Damon, I like in a cash kind of lineup. Towards the bottom end of the sevens, you probably need at least one more value tier, right? Will Gordon, maybe? Yeah, maybe it's like a Will Gordon, right? You add another like middle of the 7K guy. You definitely can take another expensive option. So if you wanted to take like a Fleetwood or Justin Rose, I don't hate him in cash. You could even try and take a 10K golfer if you wanted to. But yeah, this is the kind of build I like in a cash, where you're taking like safe golfers like a Fitz, Ben Griffin. Joel Damon, I would also put into that same kind of conversation. Let me see if I stop sharing the screen, if it just helps. Let me see. I just bring it back to my face. Maybe it'll stop. All right. Doesn't look like it's going to. All right. I'm going to end up ending the stream here, guys. This is unbearable. It's not fixing itself. And we went over pretty much everything we needed to. So we'll go over any questions in chat while I'm still here. And we'll wrap this thing up because we're not doing another half an hour of this. I apologize, guys. Let's see where we are. How would you describe where we at? We already went over those questions. Perfect. If Eric Cole and Cole Hammer had a love child, it'd be Eric Hammer. Oh my, that's funny. I think they're both studs, young up and coming studs. So maybe there's something there. Randy says, can't find Keegan Bradley on your website. Did he withdraw? He did. Sam Burns, third time is the charm. Yeah, hopefully it's a sign. Anointed says Justin Suh, why no love? Because he's short off the tee. Because he's had like 3 good performances in a row. Honestly, like it's a 3 event sample size. It's why I think people are crazy for saying that Scotty Scheffler is the best player in the world now after he had like 3 good events. People said the same thing last year, right? When he won like, what was it? Like 3 of 5 starts, got to world number 1, and then he fell off like a rock for 6 months and people like threw him to the side. So I think it's people overreacting. It's not like I hate the guy. It's just that I don't think he's as good as people give him credit for, if that makes sense. Thoughts on Pearson Cootie? I think he's a little bit overpriced. I wish he was in the 6K range still. I think he's got upside, but I'm not so sure that he's a play for me at like 7% ownership, right? $7,500. It feels like his stock has gone up a little bit too quickly for my liking. Thanks for everything. Of course, enjoy Plum Tomato. Get ready to get to the green this weekend. Yeah, hopefully we can win some money. Let me see if I can fix this. I'm going to give it one more go, guys. I'm going to give it one more try. Let's see if I can bring up Draftkings. All right. Let's just go through props as fast as humanly possible. And if you have any questions, I guess put them down in chat. We're going to do this as long as my sanity can take it when it comes to these black screens of death. In terms of like prize picks, guys, a lot of things got bumped. Let's see, is EVR still at 2.5? He is. These like bottom tier guys at 2.5, like maybe keep a close eye on conditions tomorrow morning. If it ends up playing a little bit softer than I'm expecting, these like lower tier guys could be a smash there. So I still like EVR, but maybe you include like a Bo Hostler to that, a Webb Simpson to the cards if it ends up playing a little bit easier there. For greens of regulation, it's worth noting, I do think the greens were a little bit softer today than what I was expecting. So I already played Justin Rose over. I had Keegan Bradley, right, but he withdrew. But like Joel Damon, Gary Woodland down here, who are pretty solid iron players, like if it's looking a little bit soft early, and again, they're taking off at like 8:30, so I'm talking like first few groups. If it looks really soft, maybe you hammer those guys because the average last year was 11 greens. For fairways hit, I think the board's pretty fair now. I did like Justin Rose at 8. He ended up getting bumped up. Who else got bumped up? Webb Simpson. He was at 8 fairways. He ended up getting bumped to 8.5. I liked those. They're okay now at 8.5. I'd probably avoid them. Birdie or better matchups. I had Ches Reavie under for his matchup, and then they changed the matchup, so that was a little bit strange out there. It's now Richie Werenski, so I would completely avoid that. It was Ches Reavie versus Garrick Higo before, so I thought that was completely mispriced. I absolutely loved it, so hopefully that could cash for us. But just a PSA for anybody out there that's maybe on the Patreon and that saw that, don't get hoodwinked by that. It is a different matchup now. A few other things to note: Molnax is PM wave and JT is AM wave. So I know somebody asked me earlier about this matchup between JT and Molnax. I would not play that because sure, there's a talent gap difference between JT and Molnax, but Molnax is going to have the easier conditions. So I think if anything, if you're going to take these matchups, take an elite tier guy versus one of these lower tier guys, but make sure they're playing at the same wave, right? Or if anything, that your elite tier guy's playing in the PM versus the other guy playing in the AM. You don't want to get caught off guard by somebody like a Trey Molnax that might end up giving you the axe out there. That would not be fun. Let me just confirm that with Molnax because I was doing that research before. Yeah, he's PM wave golfer. It's a slimy little matchup they put out there. It's a little trap waiting to be had. It's a good prop, honestly, to put like an elite tier guy in the harder conditions against somebody who's a lower tier golfer in the better conditions. It's a pretty fair matchup, truth be told. Over here in Underdog, I like these overs on bogey. So I know I mentioned it during my video, but on my Patreon, I absolutely smashed them. I would try and stick to the morning guys. So let's see. That's a PM wave golfer. Yeah, a lot of them got bumped. But like Adam Hadman's at 2.5 still. Let's see. Sam Burns is at 2.5. Let's see. Other AM wave golfers. There's not many on here, right? A lot of them ended up getting bumped. But like these two specifically, like I would still be more than willing to take out there at the 2.5 mark. Conditions aren't going to be as bad tomorrow morning as I think that people were calling for a few days ago. But still, difficult conditions enough to warrant taking these overs, as the average around this course historically is around 3.4 bogeys per round, which is, of course, significantly higher than what you're used to seeing around tour. Let's see if there's any questions. Fingers crossed. It looks like it's not doing so bad in terms of the black screen of death right now. But, of course, as soon as I say that's going to happen. Who do you put in for Keegan Bradley? So you're talking about DFS. I would say go to the 210K options. That's what I'm doing. I told you guys, as soon as I say anything, it's going to come back. It's predictable at the very least. Get well soon. Appreciate that, Daniel. I will definitely be drinking lots of water here. That says, can you rank Ryder, Cole, and Gerard? So you're ranking for cash. Probably Cole, Ryder, then Gerard in that order. I'd say Cole's probably the most consistent. I think probably the best player out of the bunch. Gerard, I think is an okay cash play. It's just he's the most unproven out of the bunch, so I'd probably put him on the last there. You must have missed the memo. Is the PM wave supposed to have easier conditions? For Thursday, it is. Yes. It's going to have slightly easier conditions for sure. Fatted Cheese Couples or Fred Funk? Fred Funk. Oh my gosh. You say some funny shit out there. Fred Couples, my boy. Love good old Freddie Couples. He's a stud out here at age what is he, 50 something at this point? Actually, I think he's like young 60s. Absolute stud, Freddie Couples. You like Hadman, Fleetwood, Sutton, Clark. Let's see how they do. I think Hadman's a good play. It's just I don't think you're alone in liking them. That's for damn sure. But yeah, they're. I think they'll be okay plays this week. All right. Looks like the black screen of death is going to take us off the stream. Hey, we were done anyway, so it's good timing. What's the weather on Saturday looking like? Yeah, there are going to be thunderstorms. So you're right there, Jack. Oh, all right. There are going to be thunderstorms. Okay, that's going to be it for the stream. This is so frustrating. Yeah, there's going to be thunderstorms. There's going to be a likely delay. Oh my god. All right. Now I'm just gonna end the stream. Yeah, there are going to be thunderstorms though. Will be delayed. Any rivals? You have to ask me on the Discord if you're on Patreon. We're done with this stream. This is unbearable. Fitzy for week long. Okay, I like Fitzy there. That breast up absolutely. Sounds like you caught the vid. Yeah, who knows? Might. All right, guys. That's all I've got. Catch you guys next time.